Welcome back to the channel. So today's project, we are removing the injector pump on the old John Deere. This particular injection pump is a DB2, and if you need a little bit of help in diagnosing one of these, I made a video about some of the steps that you need to perform, and I'll link that. So our first step is we need to put this engine in time on top dead cylinder number 1. Now how we know that is there is a pin location in the flywheel that we can lock that engine down, and also there is an inspection plate on the side of the fuel pump to show our timing mark. Now as we're turning the engine over and we then pin the flywheel, we could be top dead center on either number 1 or number 4 cylinder, and it's very important that we're on number 1 cylinder or we'll be 180 out. And that engine won't run when we slap a new pump in it. Now the manual states that when you are turning the engine over to pin the flywheel and time the pump, that you turn the engine clockwise as you're looking at the engine. So as you're standing here, turn the engine clockwise, and the only real purpose of that is there is some backlash in those gears. So if you turn the engine over in its normal direction, that backlash isn't going to affect our timing. Not completely sure how important that is, like there can't be that much backlash, but we're not gonna risk it. So you have two options, or if you're creative, more, of turning this engine over. So the simplest and easiest way is there is a rubber plug to insert a turning tool that then meshes with the flywheel gears, so you can then spin it and turn the engine over. This is what that tool looks like. If you do an Amazon or Google search of Cummins engine turning tool, that tool that I have here in my hand is very cheap, and it also works just fine for this engine. I will link the tool that I bought in the description, but you can just do a search if you like. Now if you're a real cheapskate, you can turn the engine over by the alternator. Yeah, little bugger's been in there a while. We also need to take out this plug right here, because that is where our timing pin goes. Let's go ahead and throw our turning tool in there, and it just pops in like that. You can stick a 1/2-inch ratchet on the back of it now. We need to pull our inspection plate on the side of the pump. So there's 2 little baby bolts here, and we're gonna take this plate off. This is a 1/4-inch socket, by the way. Now for the timing pin, John Deere will sell you a fancy timing pin, but you can just use a 5/16 bolt. Now I am going to hold some pressure on this bolt while I am turning the engine over. Something to note is, since we want the engine to turn clockwise this way, our turning tool we will be needing to turn counterclockwise, because that then turns the flywheel in the correct direction. So just keep that in mind. So just a reminder that we will be pulling up on the ratchet to turn the engine in the right direction. Okay, we got our pin installed. Now since this isn't the correct timing pin, it won't really fully install, but you'll be able to fill the hole and get it all lined up and everything. So we just want to make sure that we stay lined up. Now back to the pump. So that means we know that we're on top dead center number 1. Now if you turn this engine over and pin it and there is no line, that means that you're 180 degrees out and you have to spin the engine all the way back around. Another fairly important step, or a good practice, is go ahead. You should have a scribed mark on the housing and the pump, but if you don't, take a razor blade or something and scribe you a mark on the pump as well as gear train housing here. That way you at least have a good starting point for when you go back in with the pump to get the engine running, and then you can fine tune it if need be. And you might scratch this line fairly deep on the actual pump housing because your rebuild service is likely going to paint this pump. We're going to pull all these lines off. Now, we don't have to pull them all the way off, particularly the injector lines. We're just going to loosen them all up, and we should still have enough room to get the pump out and away. So that'll be nice when we go back together. We won't be kind of fumbling for a location. We have all our lines and all our junk off of the pump. Okay, next we're going to take out our 3 mounting nuts. You can see our drive rod here. Our pump was able to just slide on off of it. So when we go back in with the pump after it's rebuilt, we need to replace these seals. All right, here's our pump. I'm gonna send this off to get rebuilt locally, and I will let you know the price. Hopefully it's not a fortune. It has been 2 weeks. And I got my pump back. It's all painted up so pretty. All these fancy caps on it. Now the cost to have this rebuilt was a total of $1,300. Now when I dropped the pump off, the guy did warn me that it was going to probably be expensive because on these pumps, I guess they generally replace the pump head. Not quite sure what that means. But that price is actually less than I expected. So the breakdown, it was $750 in parts and $550 in labor. And they were nice enough to also send me with the seals for the drive shaft. So before we throw this pump in, we need to replace those seals. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the old seals. Now to install the new seals, I purchased this fancy tool. I'm not going to say you have to have this, but it is going to make it easier. Now before stabbing our new pump, we're going to make sure it's in time. So we're going to pull this plate off and turn the pump. And now by just shoving a flat blade screwdriver in through the dry portion, I was able to turn the pump and line up our timing marks here. I think I got you guys where you can see, and hopefully where I can work as well. Now I did lube up these seals and shaft. Okay, we're partway started. So now, before we just shove this pump over these seals, we need to compress them so we don't donk them up. At that seal there, you can see we would obviously peel it the wrong direction as we're shoving that pump in, and that wouldn't be good. So let's get our tool. So the other part of that installation kit that we got, you know, we used that for sliding the seals on, but also we got these crab painters here. And that is to compress that other seal so we can slide the pump over it. Just like that. So use a mirror or whatever you got to just make sure that seal isn't rolled. Okay, and just slowly working it in there. Make sure everything lines up good. Now I had to kind of wiggle and twist to make sure that shaft actually all lined up. Since this pump swivels in the bore, don't forget to line up your mark that we made that's on the pump with the mark that we made on the housing before you actually tighten it up. Let's go ahead and pull our pin and our turning tool, because you really don't want to forget that. We'll go ahead and put our plug and stuff in. We have our throttle linkage on. We have our solenoid wire connected. We have all of our fuel lines on. Now all of these fuel lines are a smidge less than hand tight. That's because we still have to bleed the system before this thing's gonna start. Now we're on the right side of the unit. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a new fuel filter on real quick. We're gonna crack this screw here, and we are going to pump this little lever. This is your lift pump here. We're gonna pump this little lever all the way up till we see fuel bubbling out there. We got fuel running out there. And we're gonna tighten that back up. Back on the other side of the engine, we are going to pump fuel till we get a pretty good stream out of this fitting now. Now, this would be a good time to have an assistant. I don't have one, so you guys will have to holler when you see fuel. Okay, we got a good stream, so we can tighten that up. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and tighten up this fitting now. Now we are going to crank the engine till we get fuel from our injector line ports. So remember, these are just a little looser than hand tight. It's a good time to just take a minute and look everything over real quick. Make sure you're not forgetting something before we spin this engine over. All right, looks like we got a pretty good stream of fuel. So let's tighten up the lines. Okay, so we're gonna try and fire it up. Now we might still have to crack the injector lines, and also we might have to still use starter fluid, but I don't really like starting fluid. It can be hard on engines. So let's go ahead and crank it and just see what it does. It wasn't too bad. I'm gonna let it work the air out for a few minutes. So it sounds really good now. Now it took probably 4 or 5 minutes till it cleared up. So expect that. I'm gonna go ahead and service this thing real quick. I think it's time to test our work. So we did about an hour's worth of work. We did some loader work and some digging. Got the machine nice and hot, and it is running flawlessly. After doing a repair like this, you want to make sure and look your work over pretty closely, because we don't want to spring a fuel leak anywhere near the exhaust system. So keep that in mind. All right, I hope this helps someone. We'll catch you guys in the next video.
Keep digging.